My mother always told me family comes first no matter what happens. I believed those words for 28 years. I worked 2 jobs, sent money home every month, and dropped everything whenever anyone needed help. I thought that was love. I thought that was what family meant. But when I collapsed on the office floor, my heart racing out of control, my vision fading to black, I learned a painful truth. Their love had conditions I never knew existed. Before I continue this story, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. If you have ever felt like you gave everything to people who gave you nothing in return, hit that like button. And if you want to hear more stories like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let me tell you what happened when I woke up in that hospital room completely alone. Growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, I was taught that being a good son meant sacrifice. My name is Marcus, and at 28 years old, I work as a senior financial analyst at a corporate firm downtown. 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, crunching numbers and building reports that make other people rich. My apartment sits 40 minutes from my parents' house, a small 1-bedroom place that I barely see because I am always working. For 6 years straight, I have sent 1/3 of my paycheck to my parents, not because they asked directly, but because I knew they needed it. The mortgage payments were piling up. My father, Robert, 56 years old, works as an electrician, but his body is not what it used to be. Jobs come and go. My mother, Linda, stays home managing the house, managing everyone except herself. And then there is Christina. Christina is my younger sister, 23 years old, finishing her final year of college with a degree in marketing. She has always been the golden child, though nobody in my family would ever admit it out loud. When we were kids, I walked her to school every single day. I helped her with homework until midnight. When she wanted a new laptop for college, I emptied my savings account. When she dreamed of traveling through Europe with her friends last summer, I handed her $3,000 and told her to have fun. She promised to pay me back. That money never came. But I did not mind. That is what older brothers do, right? We protect, we provide. We put ourselves last so our siblings can shine. At least that is what I kept telling myself. Looking back now, I can see the cracks that were always there. The way my father spoke to me with sharp words but softened his voice whenever Christina entered the room. The way my mother criticized every decision I made but praised Christina for breathing. When I graduated from college with honors, my parents said the drive was too long to attend the ceremony. When Christina graduated high school, the whole family flew to California and threw a party that lasted 3 days. I noticed these things. Of course I noticed. But I swallowed the hurt and kept moving forward. I thought maybe if I worked harder, gave more, loved louder, they would eventually see me. They would appreciate the son who never complained, never asked for anything, never stopped showing up. I was wrong. The weeks leading up to my collapse were brutal. A major project deadline loomed over the entire department, and I volunteered to lead the team. 14-hour days became my normal. Breakfast disappeared from my routine. Lunch was a granola bar eaten between meetings. Dinner was whatever I could microwave at 11 at night before passing out on the couch. My body sent warnings. Headaches that lasted for days. A tightness in my chest that I blamed on stress. Dizzy spells that I pushed through with coffee and willpower. I ignored every single sign because the project mattered, because my job mattered, because I could not afford to be weak. That Wednesday morning in mid-March, Chicago was freezing. I woke up with a splitting headache and swallowed 2 Advil tablets before dragging myself to the office. By 7 in the morning, I was already at my desk reviewing the presentation one final time. By 11, I stood in front of 15 executives delivering the results of 2 months of grueling work. Halfway through my 3rd slide, something shifted. The room tilted slightly. My vision blurred at the edges. Sweat broke out across my forehead despite the air conditioning blasting cold air. I gripped the edge of the conference table, trying to steady myself, trying to push through like I always did. Then my heart started racing. Not the normal nervous flutter before a big presentation. This was violent, erratic, like a drum being beaten without rhythm. My chest tightened until I could not breathe. My legs gave out beneath me. I remember falling. I remember the cold floor against my cheek. I remember voices shouting, someone calling 911, someone loosening my tie. And then everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was white. White ceiling, white walls, white sheets wrapped around my body. The steady beep of a heart monitor filled the silence. An IV drip hung beside my bed, connected to a needle buried in my arm. My throat felt like sandpaper. My entire body ached as if I had been run over by a truck. I blinked several times, trying to make sense of my surroundings. A hospital room. I was in a hospital. The door opened and a doctor walked in. He introduced himself as Dr. Patterson, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes hidden behind wire-rimmed glasses. He sat down beside my bed and explained what happened. Severe exhaustion. Dangerously high blood pressure. Early signs of heart failure. My body had been screaming for help for weeks, maybe months, and I had ignored every single cry. "Doctor," Patterson looked at me seriously and said words that still echo in my mind today. "Mr. Thompson, if you continue down this path, the next time might be your last. Your body cannot handle this level of stress. You need rest. You need to change your lifestyle, and you need people around you who care." I nodded weakly, then asked the question burning in my chest. "Where is my family?" The doctor paused. Something flickered in his eyes. Pity, maybe. Or understanding. "We called the emergency contacts listed in your file. Your parents. They said they would come." Relief washed over me. Of course they would come. I was their son. I was lying in a hospital bed hooked up to machines. Of course they would drop everything and rush to my side. I waited. 3 o'clock passed. Then 5. Then 7. The sun set outside my window, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that I could barely see through the blinds. Nurses came and went, checking my vitals, adjusting my medication, offering sympathetic smiles. I sent a text to my mother. "Mom, I am in the hospital. Please come." The message showed as delivered. Then read. No reply. I called my father. The phone rang 4 times before going to voicemail. I left a message, my voice cracking. "Dad, it is Marcus. I collapsed at work. I am at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Please call me back." Silence. I messaged Christina. "Hey sis, I collapsed at work. I am at Northwestern Memorial. Could use some company." She saw the message within minutes. The little check marks turned blue, but no response came. I told myself they were busy, maybe stuck in traffic, maybe dealing with something urgent. They would come tomorrow. They had to. That night I lay alone in the darkness, listening to the machines keeping me alive, wondering why the people who claimed to love me were nowhere to be found. The next day crawled by, slowly. I watched the door constantly, hoping to see a familiar face push through. My phone stayed silent. No calls, no texts. Not even a simple "how are you feeling?" I tried to focus on recovering, on following the doctor's orders, but my mind kept wandering back to the emptiness surrounding me. On my second afternoon in the hospital, I picked up my phone and scrolled through Facebook. Just something to pass the time, to distract myself from the loneliness eating away at my insides. A notification popped up. Christina had tagged me in a post. My heart lifted for a moment. Maybe she had written something supportive. Maybe she was sharing a message asking people to send me well wishes. I tapped on the notification with trembling fingers. What I saw shattered something inside me. A photograph filled my screen. My parents sat at a beautifully decorated table in what looked like an expensive restaurant. Crystal glasses filled with champagne. Plates of food that cost more than my hospital bill. And there was Christina, smiling brightly between them, her arm around 2 of her friends who had joined the dinner. The caption read, "Family dinner without the drama. Finally, some peace and quality time together. Love you guys." I read those words 3 times, convinced I was hallucinating. Without the drama. Family without the drama. I was the drama. While I lay in a hospital bed, fighting to recover from a near-fatal collapse, my family celebrated my absence. They toasted to a night free from the burden of my existence. I scrolled through the comments. Christina's friends wrote things like, "You deserve this," and "So happy you got some quality time." My mother had left a heart emoji. My father had commented, "Great evening." 73 likes, 12 comments. Not a single person asked where I was. The phone slipped from my fingers and landed on the hospital blanket. I stared at the ceiling, feeling tears slide down the sides of my face and disappear into my pillow. 28 years of trying to be enough. 28 years of sacrificing, giving, loving without conditions. And this was what I meant to them. This was how much I mattered. The machines beeped steadily, indifferent to my breaking heart. Somewhere outside my window, the city of Chicago continued spinning. Cars honked, people laughed, life went on. But inside that sterile white room, something inside me died. The naive boy who believed family would always show up. The hopeful son who thought love could be earned through hard work and dedication. Gone. I wept silently until exhaustion pulled me under, and when I woke the next morning, I knew nothing would ever be the same. The days that followed blurred together in a haze of medication tests and profound silence from my family. I stopped checking my phone for their messages. I stopped hoping they would walk through the door. I focused instead on breathing, on healing, on staying alive for reasons I had not yet discovered. On my third morning in the hospital, something unexpected happened. A knock on my door followed by a familiar face. Derek, my senior manager from work, walked in carrying a bouquet of flowers and a basket of fruit. Behind him came Hannah, the colleague who sat at the desk next to mine. She held a container of homemade chicken soup, still warm, the steam rising through a crack in the lid. I stared at them in disbelief. Derek pulled a chair close to my bed and sat down. "The whole team has been worried sick about you, Marcus. When we heard what happened, everyone wanted to visit. I hope it is okay that we came." Hannah placed the soup on my bedside table. "I know you skip meals. I have watched you do it for months, so I made this last night. You need real food, not hospital stuff." Words caught in my throat. These people, colleagues I had only ever talked to about spreadsheets and deadlines, had shown me more care in 5 minutes than my family had shown in 5 days. Derek asked gently, "Where are your parents, your sister?" I hesitated. The truth felt heavy on my tongue. "They are busy," I finally said. Derek and Hannah exchanged a glance. They understood without me having to explain. And in that understanding, I found a strange comfort. They did not push. They did not judge. They simply sat with me, talked about light things, made me laugh for the first time since I woke up in this place. After they left, I realized something important. Family was not just about blood. Family was about who showed up when things fell apart. By the 5th day, I had grown used to the hospital routine. Morning vitals, afternoon rest, evening walks down the hallway to rebuild my strength. I was weak but improving. The doctors talked about discharging me within a few days if my numbers continued to stabilize. That morning I reached for my phone out of habit, expecting the usual emptiness. Instead, the screen lit up with notifications that made my stomach drop. 74 missed calls, 60 from my father, 14 from my mother, and 1 text message from my dad that read, "Marcus, we need you. Answer immediately. This is urgent." My heart rate spiked so fast that the monitor beside me started beeping an alarm. A nurse rushed in, but I waved her off, assuring her I was fine, physically at least. I stared at those words for a long time. We need you. Now they needed me. After 5 days of silence, after celebrating my absence, after ignoring every message I sent from a hospital bed, now suddenly, I mattered. Curiosity won over caution. I pressed the call button and waited. My mother answered on the first ring. "Marcus, oh thank God, why have you not been answering? We have been calling for days." Her voice sounded frantic, almost hysterical. A stark contrast to the woman who had ignored my messages about being hospitalized. "I have been in the hospital, Mom," I said flatly. "You knew that." Yes, I know, but something happened. Something serious. You need to come home right now." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. What happened? The story came pouring out in a rush of words and panic. Christina had gotten herself into trouble. Big trouble. She had borrowed money from a predatory lending company to fund her shopping habits and travel adventures. The original amount was $15,000, but with their outrageous interest rates, it had ballooned to over $20,000. Now these people were threatening her, sending intimidating messages, showing up at my parents' house demanding payment. Christina was terrified. My parents were terrified. And their solution, as always, was to call Marcus. "You have to help her," my mother pleaded. "You are her brother. You have money. You have to fix this." Something cold settled in my chest. Not anger exactly. Something deeper. Something that had been building for 28 years and finally reached its breaking point. "Let me understand this correctly," I said slowly. "I have been lying in a hospital bed for 5 days. Not one of you came to see me. Not one of you even sent a text asking how I was doing. Christina posted a picture celebrating a family dinner without me while I was hooked up to machines fighting for my life. And now you call because you need money. Silence on the other end. The photo, my mother stammered. That was just... Christina did not mean anything by it. You are being too sensitive. Too sensitive. I repeated the words like they were foreign objects in my mouth. Mom, I almost died. The doctors told me my heart was failing, and my family response was to go out for champagne. We did not know it was that serious. You would have known if you had answered the phone, or visited, or shown even the smallest amount of care. My mother started crying. I heard shuffling, then my father's gruff voice came through the speaker. That is enough, Marcus. Stop upsetting your mother. We need your help. This is family. You do not turn your back on family. I laughed. Actually laughed. A hollow sound that surprised even me. Family, I said. Let me tell you about family, Dad. Family is supposed to show up when you are sick. Family is supposed to care whether you live or die. Family does not celebrate your absence and then come begging for money when they need something. You are being dramatic. No, Dad. For the first time in my life, I am being honest. I am done. The words hung in the air between us. I will not give Christina the money. I will not send any more payments home. She borrowed that money. She can figure out how to pay it back. She is 23 years old. It is time she faced consequences for her actions. My father exploded. Called me ungrateful. Called me selfish. Said I was abandoning my family when they needed me most. The irony was so thick I could have choked on it. You abandoned me first, I said quietly. You just never realized it. Or maybe you did and you simply did not care. I hung up before he could respond. For a long moment I sat in the silence of my hospital room phone resting in my lap, heart beating steadily for the first time in days. I had done it. I had finally drawn a line. And on the other side of that line I was free. The first weeks after leaving the hospital were the hardest. I returned to my empty apartment, still weak, still recovering, still processing the earthquake that had torn through my understanding of family. My phone buzzed constantly at first. Texts from my mother alternating between guilt trips and apologies, messages from Christina claiming she was sorry that she missed me, that she did not mean to hurt me, voicemails from my father threatening to disown me, then begging me to reconsider. I blocked every number. Some nights, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, questioning everything. Had I made the right choice? Was I being too harsh? The guilt crept in like a fog, whispering that good sons do not abandon their families, that blood is thicker than water, that I would regret this forever. On those nights I let myself cry. I mourned the family I thought I had. I grieved for the little boy who just wanted his parents to be proud of him. I released 28 years of swallowed pain, one tear at a time. But with each passing day, the fog lifted a little more. I used my medical leave to focus entirely on recovery. I started seeing a therapist, a compassionate woman named Dr. Ellis, who helped me understand that I was not broken. I was not selfish. I was a victim of a family dynamic that had trained me to give endlessly while expecting nothing in return. She taught me words I had never learned before. Boundaries, self-worth, emotional neglect. These concepts felt foreign at first, like learning a new language, but slowly they started making sense. I changed my routines, started eating 3 meals a day, began exercising again, just walks at first, then light jogging as my strength returned. I slept 8 hours every night and discovered I had forgotten what it felt like to wake up rested. Derek and Hannah became constants in my life. Weekend dinners, movie nights, long conversations about everything and nothing. They introduced me to their other friends, and suddenly I had a social circle that had nothing to do with obligation or family pressure. When I returned to work 2 months later, my supervisor had already adjusted my workload. No more 14-hour days. No more weekend emergencies. I learned to say no without apologizing, to leave the office at a reasonable hour, to value my time and energy as precious resources. The money I used to send home now went into a savings account, into travel, into experiences that brought me joy instead of draining me dry. For the first time in my adult life, I was living for myself. 6 months after my collapse, I heard news through a distant cousin. Christina had been forced to sell her car and most of her expensive belongings to pay back the loan sharks. My parents had taken out a second mortgage on their house to cover the remaining debt. The fancy dinners and champagne celebrations had stopped. Christina eventually sent me a message that got through before I could block her new number. "Marcus, I am so sorry. I was wrong. I miss you. Please forgive me." I read those words several times. I thought about responding, about opening the door to reconciliation, about being the bigger person the way I had always been. But I realized something. Forgiveness did not require me to let them back in. I could release the anger without inviting the pain back into my life. I could wish them well from a distance and still protect the peace I had fought so hard to build. I deleted the message and continued with my day. Today, my life looks nothing like it did a year ago. My apartment is filled with plants and sunlight and books I actually have time to read. I have friends who check on me not because they need something, but because they genuinely care. I am dating a wonderful woman named Samantha who looks at me like I matter, who never makes me feel like a burden, who loves me without conditions. Most importantly, I have learned to love myself. The lesson I carry with me is simple but hard-earned. Loving yourself is not selfish. Setting boundaries is not betrayal. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you should never set yourself on fire to keep others warm. If you are watching this and you recognize yourself in my story, if you have spent years giving everything to people who take without gratitude, I want you to know something. You deserve better. You are worthy of love that does not come with conditions. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had to choose between your own well-being and the expectations of your family? What did you do? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who is struggling right now. If this story touched you, please hit that like button so more people can find it. Subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more real stories about love loss and finding your way back to yourself. And share this video with someone who might need to hear these words today. Thank you for staying until the end. Whatever you are going through, I hope you find the strength to put yourself first. You deserve peace. You deserve happiness. And you deserve a family, whether by blood or by choice, that shows up for you when it matters most. Take care of yourself. And remember, your story is not over yet.